Hi Group 2, my name is Jennifer Sapp, and this week I'll be presenting to you a review on this week's reading of Social Psychology, Chapters 3 and 4, as well as Theories in Social Psychology, Chapters 3 and 5. Self-concept is the sum total of beliefs that people have about themselves. It is the unique ability to have an awareness about oneself, something that only humans and apes have in common that no other animal shares. It is impacted and influenced by our environment, shown through the different countries around the world, or even in America and the vast amount of cultures in our own area, as well as through gender and race. In specific environments, we recognize our strengths and weaknesses, and our hearing even becomes heightened to the sound of our own name. Self-concept is made up of self-schemas, which are beliefs about oneself that guide the processing of self-relevant information. This can be seen easily through last Friday's inauguration of President Donald Trump. Some who identified as anti-Trump supporters rallied in both destructive and non-destructive ways to show their disapproval, while some who supported Trump went to Washington, D.C. to cheer for him despite the risk. They acted based on their own processing of the relevant information leading up to that day, which led to their later actions. The idea of reaching self-insight is done through a few processes. One, introspection, causes us to ask ourselves how we think and feel. How do I feel about this job, this career change, going back to school? How do I feel about this relationship? These are very common questions we ask ourselves throughout our lives that are introspective. However, when attempting to look forward, which is active forecasting, we can only assume the emotions we will feel related to the ideas we have. These questions commonly look like, how happy will I be when I get that new job? How much better will life be when I get married? Or, once I get my degree, how much easier will life feel? Realistically, we cannot accurately know how we will feel or for how long we'll even feel that way. Studies actually show that quite often people are wrong about the length of time or the actual emotions felt, which is called impact bias. Have you ever done something or said something and then taken time to reflect on why you did that? This process is called self-perception. Self-perception is the idea of reviewing one's behavior. This, however, can only be done if the event seems inadequate or unnecessary to bring about said behavior. So when a person's getting angry on the phone with the company, or when someone starts to cry at work after they receive a new assignment, these are situations when they would want to sit back and reflect on how they acted and why they acted that way. In settings where there's a reward or a consequence for a specific behavior, we are unable to review ourselves to determine the reason for that said behavior because we are aware of the results for our action. Self-esteem is a component that is obtained through factors such as our appearance, our physical strength, our accomplishments and financial stability, our ability to work well with other people, as well as our group affiliations. Our self-esteem is raised and lowered based on what we think we should look like, feel like, be capable of, and what we are in reality. If we have high expectations of ourselves in an area we struggle in, our self-esteem may lower. If we're having a great hair day when we leave the house, our self-esteem will rise. According to the sociometer theory, we need self-esteem in order to know if our behavior is acceptable, and if not, to change ourselves and by changing our mindsets and our actions. Many things can positively and negatively impact our self-esteem in situations. Others' approval or disapproval is a prime example. Social networking has a unique ability to impact an individual's self-esteem. We can observe it by signing on to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and any other social networking site and see how many people post information about their life in order to see how many reactions, likes, or hearts they can get. A research was conducted on a Dutch social networking site to see how social networks indirectly impacted self-esteem on individuals ages 10 to 19. The research tested to see how often those individuals went onto the website, how long they stayed, how frequently they got a reaction from someone they know on the internet only, and how often they received a reaction from someone that they don't know at all, the reaction of their site, the relationships they have developed through the site, their social self-esteem, and their well-being. Self-esteem was changed based on the response received from the personal site. Positive and negative feedback raised and lowered their self-esteem, even though they were regards to individuals who may not know them in person and offered their feedback. Attribution refers to the explanation of behavior. The founder of attribution, Fritz Heider, stated that it was a process that generates inference of the relatively invariant qualities of objects from the characteristics variance patterns that they cause in their media. Heider attempted to explain the relationship between sensory information and real objects with his attribution theory. Others, such as Jones and Davis and Kelly, went on to develop theories on their own because of Heider's original theory. Attribution theory is actually a group of theories that describe how people explain the causes of behavior. This theory is beneficial when conducting experiments on how people react to word-of-mouth information. This is especially beneficial for companies who want their products to thrive. One experiment chose to see how negative word-of-mouth communication would impact a specific company. 3 personal computer brands were manipulated to have negative communication, while 2 others were just name brand products. The results showed that there was significant negative results for the products that had negative word of mouth, as long as the receiver who placed the information of the negative feedback on the actual product as opposed to the communicator. If they viewed the communicator inappropriately, then they would place that negative feedback on them as opposed to the actual product. Continuing with attribution theories, folk concepts of mind and behavior developed. Because it is seen that children have intentionality in their thoughts and action through children's theory of mind, it is believed that adults continue in intentionality. This transition is seen throughout childhood into adulthood as they continue to sort beliefs, teachings, reasons, and intentions in their mind. There are 5 necessities that must be present in order for an action to be intentional. First, the action must be based on a desire for an outcome. The person performing the action is doing so with the hopes of a particular end result. An example would be someone going to the gym for their New Year's resolution. They have a goal in mind of whether to build strength or to lose weight. They have an end result in mind. Second, there must be beliefs about the action's relationship with this outcome. Again, that person going to the gym is performing the action and doing so believing that the desired end result will in fact happen. Next, a resulting intention to perform the action, as well as skill and awareness to do so, must be present. Social psychologist Feinsteiner developed the social comparison theory. In his theory, he sought to explain how individuals evaluated themselves by comparing themselves and their abilities to others. Feinsteiner used similarity hypothesis to explain how we compare ourselves to others who are similar to us in a trait, but better than us in a particular way that is positive. For example, I attend a CrossFit box. I regularly find myself comparing myself to the other women I work out with who are better than me at Olympic weightlifting. We also do the exact opposite with negative traits. We will compare ourselves to someone who's a little bit worse than us at that trait, which will build us up in that negative trait. This is also called self-enhancement. I, on the other hand, with my CrossFit box, find myself doing this at times. I'll compare myself to someone who I'm working out with who lifts a little bit less weight or might be newer so doesn't have the form down as much as I do. While I have no desire to tear them down, it does allow me to build myself up and giving me the strength and confidence to continue going and continue pushing forward. I believe Feinsteiner had a great theory here on how we compare ourselves to others for the sole purpose of building ourselves up or even in some ways slightly tearing ourselves down. Finally, after reading this week's chapters, I have a couple questions to further engage us with. First, in a country that is growing increasingly further from God, how is your self-esteem impacted by your faith in God? In what environments do you find your self-esteem and who you are in Christ negatively impacted? Next, in Feinsteiner's social comparison theory, he identified 9 hypotheses to explain his beliefs for the primary reason for communication, which he believed was to reach an agreement within a group. What are your thoughts on these 9 hypotheses? Is there one that stands out to you? And if so, why? Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my presentation, and I look forward to seeing your responses to these questions.